Right now, you're understanding these words because of language. Sentences, grammar, vocabulary you learned before you could even walk. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. Here's something strange to sit with. For most of human history, that tool didn't exist yet. Your ancestors lived for hundreds of thousands of years before spoken language, as we know it, fully developed. And yet they hunted together, raised children together, warned each other of danger, and passed down knowledge across generations. So how exactly did they pull that off, without a single word? Psychologist Michael Corballis at the University of Auckland spent decades building the case for an answer that surprises most people. He argues that gesture, not speech, came first. Long before the vocal cords were doing the heavy lifting, hands were. Think about what a hand can do that a grunt can't. Point at a direction, trace the shape of an animal, mimic the motion of running or throwing or drinking. A raised palm can mean stop. A beckoning finger can mean follow. None of that requires vocabulary. It just requires two people watching each other closely enough to understand intent. Researchers testing this idea asked participants from different cultural backgrounds, including some in Australia and Vanuatu, to communicate specific ideas using only grunts, and separately using only gestures, sometimes even working with blindfolded partners who had to guess the meaning. Across the board, gesture won. It carried more precise information, faster, and with far less ambiguity than vocal sound alone. This isn't just a modern experiment confirming an old guess. It touches something deeper about how bodies naturally communicate before any formal system gets layered on top. Watch any group of toddlers who haven't fully mastered speech yet, and you'll see the same instinct playing out in real time, reaching, pointing, pulling someone's sleeve toward what they want. The gestural channel appears to be a kind of default setting, something the human body reaches for automatically when words aren't yet available. This lines up with something else researchers have found in the brain itself. Neuroscientist Dietrich Stout at Emory University has spent years studying what happens inside the brain when someone naps a stone tool, striking one rock against another in careful, practiced sequences to create a sharp edge. Using brain imaging, his team found that this activity lights up Broca's area, the same region of the brain deeply involved in producing spoken language. Toolmaking and talking, it turns out, may be running on shared neural circuitry that evolved together, not separately. This isn't a small coincidence buried in the data. Both toolmaking and language share something crucial underneath the surface: a need to plan a sequence of small, precise actions in the correct order, hold that plan in mind while executing it, and adjust on the fly if something goes wrong partway through. A sentence is a sequence of sounds arranged with intention. A finished stone blade is a sequence of strikes arranged with just as much intention. The brain, it seems, didn't necessarily build two separate systems for these two skills. It may have built one flexible system capable of handling both. Let's picture what a normal exchange between two early humans might have actually looked like. Two people crouched near a riverbank. One notices movement in the reeds nearby. A deer, half hidden. There's no time and no need for a sentence. A quick, sharp hand signal toward the reeds. A finger pressed briefly to the lips. The second person freezes instantly, eyes following the direction of the point. No words were exchanged, but a complete, urgent message was received. Danger or opportunity, depending on how you read the moment. Wait, watch. Don't move yet. Later, back at camp, a different kind of exchange happens. An older member of the group holds up a stone tool, turning it slowly so a younger person can see the angle of each strike. A hand demonstrates the motion, striking an imaginary rock in the air, then pointing to the real one, then repeating the gesture slower. The younger person mimics it, adjusting after a subtle head shake, and a hand repositioning their grip. An entire technical skill, precise enough to matter for survival, transmitted without a single spoken instruction. This kind of teaching moment probably happened constantly everywhere, for an enormous stretch of time before spoken language became the dominant channel. Multiply that single exchange by every skill a community needed to pass down: tracking prey, building shelter, treating a wound, reading the weather, and you start to see just how much complex, generation-spanning knowledge could move through hands and eyes alone, with no vocabulary required at any step. Here's the twist that changes how you might think about all of this. If gesture and tool making share the same neural roots as speech, then language may not have been a sudden invention at all. It may have been layered on top of a communication system that was already fully functional, already carrying complex, nuanced meaning, just through a different channel than the one you rely on today. Evidence from Neanderthals adds another piece to this picture. In 1989, researcher Baruch Arnsberg and his colleagues examined a hyoid bone, a small, delicate bone that anchors the muscles of the tongue and throat, recovered from a Neanderthal skeleton at Kibara Cave in Israel. Remarkably, it closely resembled the hyoid bone of a modern human, not the more limited version found in other primates. This suggested that Neanderthals, who lived alongside and eventually alongside early Homo sapiens, may have had the physical equipment necessary for complex vocal speech, layered right on top of whatever gestural communication came before. That single small bone reshaped a lot of assumptions almost overnight. For decades, Neanderthals had been imagined as grunting, simple-minded cousins of modern humans, incapable of anything resembling real conversation. A hyoid bone shaped almost exactly like your own suggested something very different, a species that may have talked, argued, taught, and told stories in ways not so far removed from how you do it right now. So the picture that emerges isn't one of primitive grunting slowly evolving into eloquence. It's closer to an entire communication system, hands, faces, posture, timing, working together long before spoken words join the mix, and possibly continuing to work alongside speech rather than simply being replaced by it. You can still see the outline of this older system every single day if you know where to look. Watch two people who don't share a language try to communicate at an airport counter or a market stall. Hands appear almost instantly, pointing, miming, exaggerated facial expressions, all deployed automatically without anyone teaching them to do it. That instinct didn't come from nowhere. It's the same channel your ancestors relied on for hundreds of thousands of years, still sitting there, ready the moment words fail you. Deaf communities around the world offer perhaps the clearest living proof of all. Full, grammatically complex languages, expressed entirely through the hands, body, and face. No spoken sound required at all. These languages have their own grammar rules, their own regional dialects, their own poetry and humor. Everything a spoken language has, just carried through a completely different channel. Far from a simplified stand-in for speech, sign languages demonstrate that the gestural channel your ancestors relied on was never a lesser system. It was, and still is, a complete one, fully capable of expressing anything a spoken sentence can, from a grocery list to a philosophical argument. So the next time words fail you and your hands start moving on their own, know that you're not improvising something new. You're reaching for the original operating system, the one your ancestors ran on for most of the time humans have existed, quietly still installed underneath everything you now say out loud. Every shrug, every pointed finger, every exaggerated eye roll mid-conversation is a small echo of a communication system that worked perfectly well for hundreds of thousands of years before a single word was ever spoken. If discoveries like this make you think differently about the words you take for granted, stick around. There's a lot more about how you communicate that's still worth uncovering.